Hello, welcome to Transfer Talk. Bayern Munich's pursuit of Harry Kane intensifies, with the club set to hold talks with Tottenham over a potential move. The latest is on the way. Will Chelsea make another offer for Moise Caicedo after seeing an £80 million offer rejected? West Ham aren't having much luck either in their attempts to bolster their midfield, with a bid for James Ward-Prowse rejected last night. Could be set for a pivotal few days regarding the future of Harry Kane. Bayern Munich's hierarchy are in London to hold talks with Daniel Levy. Bayern have made no secret of their desire to sign the striker this summer and are increasingly confident they can sign him this window. Paris Saint-Germain believe they are in contention to also land Kane if Tottenham agree to selling him, but Bayern believe they are his preferred destination. Right, Sam, the thing is with this, we've got Sam Bassey, Harriet Pryor and Kwaku Afari with us today. And Sam, the fact that Tottenham are having this meeting, that Daniel Levy is having a meeting with Bayern Munich, we believe, as we speak, means that they are at least open to selling him. They're not saying it's a no and not picking up the phone.
Yeah, I think they kind of have to be at this point. You know, Kane's made it pretty clear that he's not willing to sign a new contract, but he is, because of his loyalty to Spurs, that he doesn't mind running down his contract and staying for an extra year. And I think when you look at the strikers market, there's not that many world-class strikers that can go for a fee like Harry Kane. You know, even though he's still got a year left on his contract, they're still asking for upwards of £90 million. And I think that's obviously because he's a world-class striker. But at this point, it's interesting because I've had a lot of Spurs fans messaging me saying they still hold the power and he can stay for an extra year, and if he gets them into Champions League football, that is okay. But at the same time, one of your most valuable, if not your most valuable asset, is able to leave for free. I don't think any chairman or any team would want that to be the case. So I think now they understand that, you know, Bayern is serious. They want him to lead their line next season. So it makes sense for them to, you know, come to some sort of agreement.
And Harriet, it makes sense, as Sam says, but if you're Ange Postecoglou, the manager here, are you thinking, well, actually, I would like 1 year with Harry Kane, even if we do lose him for free? Or is he thinking, I want the money now to improve the squad?
I think there's a really strong argument that they should start the rebuild a little bit sooner. If they already know that this time next year they're going to have to be considering other options for Harry Kane and preparing for a future without him, is there not this argument for him to say, well, look, I want to start my rebuild now, I can reinvest the funds into central defence, and I know that really is the problem area for them. They want either one or even two more central defenders to bring in this summer transfer window. Get the funds in from Kane and then see what they can do this window before that. And also there's a debate around the kind of formation that Tottenham are going to play next season under the new manager. Under Conte, it was much more of a three at the back system, and I think the players they have fit that. Postecoglou wants to change to more of a 4-3-3. Do the players they have now adapt to that system, or do they need to look to bring some new players in? So for me, maybe he's thinking, let's get this saga out the way, because it is becoming a little bit of a saga. Let's have an end to it, a conclusion, and let's bring in the funds from Kane and reinvest in other areas of the pitch which are more vital for me at the moment.
I think with Harry Kane, he's such a talent, such a generational talent, and he means so much to Spurs. And we all know in football you're not given time. And so Postecoglou could be looking, I kind of do agree with your sentiment. But if you're looking at it from a manager's point of view, there's no guarantee Postecoglou's there beyond the season if it goes disastrous for him. So I know that Harry Kane, you're going to recoup a lot of money for him if you sell him this summer. But if you keep Harry Kane, you're probably more likely to finish in the top four in and around European places, just because the amount of goals he gives you. He's a 30-goal-a-season striker who's very, very
last season.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Look at all those stats. He's so important for Spurs in terms of goals, in terms of games he plays. I know people say that Harry Kane's very injury prone, but the last couple of seasons, if not 3 seasons, he's played the majority of Spurs' league games and he's been so invaluable to them. So for them to lose a player like that with not that much time to replace him, it'll be difficult for Postecoglou to do in his first summer as Spurs manager.
But I think I can understand the sentiment. Like you said, every metric he is at the top for Spurs, but at the same time, when you've got a new manager come in like Postecoglou, who almost thrives under a new challenge, the team that he has, when you take Harry Kane out, yes, like you said, he's probably going to be their captain if he stays, and he's such a leader in that team. But they've got Richarlison that they signed last season that almost didn't really find a place in the squad because of, you know, the constants like Son, Kane, Kulusevski, who could also not replace Kane in terms of his goals, but he can be that presence. They signed Maddison as well, who's definitely going to add to goals as well. So I think if they're able to almost push on and start that rebuild now, this is probably the best time to do it.
And for Bayern Munich, would Kane guarantee trophies for them? And would Bayern Munich guarantee trophies for him?
Most definitely. Harry Kane is one of the best strikers in the world. And Bayern Munich are one of the best clubs in the world, and they are clearly the best club in Germany. It's been a decade of dominance by Bayern Munich, and even in one of their worst seasons, the past season, they still won the league when they went to the last game of the season. And Harry Kane is going to give you 30 goals at least in all competitions. And this season gave 30 goals just in the Premier League. Think about what he can do in Bundesliga. So I definitely think that if Harry Kane goes to Bayern Munich, he will win trophies. There's an argument to be made, though. What's more impressive, or what means more to Harry Kane? Winning the Bundesliga title, we'll take Champions League away from this, or breaking the Premier League goal scoring record? Which one carries more weight?
Trophies, 100%.
Well, a Bundesliga title means more.
Team sport, isn't it? And I think he doesn't want to end his career with that hanging over him, that he's not won a trophy. Yes, the individual records we know mean so much to him, and he's constantly going after them, but they're just a byproduct of his good performances. And I think he'll want to go to a team now where in his first season he can say, I'm going to get a guaranteed trophy here, and Bayern Munich, like you've just mentioned, would be exactly that.
Right, well, we're now joined by Dutch football expert Marcel van der Kraan. Marcel, great to see you, great to have you back on the shows this summer. Let's start with Manchester United then, and Erik ten Hag. A striker now a priority at the club. Do you think that ten Hag will get his target? It looks like that's going to be Rasmus Højlund.
I think he's been focusing on Højlund all that time, but it's not been very easy. There's been a lack of financial support, support in the way of can Man United raise enough cash to give into the demands of Atalanta? At the beginning of the summer, the budget was not clear. In the middle of the summer, he was told, look, we might not be able to do everything you want. And then I think there came a point where the rivals, Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City, everybody was buying top players. And I think this was the moment when the board and the directors realised we have to act. And there was a meeting, as far as I've been informed, where Ten Hag was told, OK, we must spend a bit more, go for your targets, but we cannot go as high as maybe the clubs want. But I think there's been some, significant progress, and Højlund is the most likely arrival very soon.
And I mean, that would be a striker. What other areas do you think that Ten Hag is looking to strengthen?
In midfield, he needs to bolster it. He wants a bigger squad. He wants a squad with every position with two top players. And Sofiane Amrabat is the Moroccan-Dutch midfielder who was absolutely brilliant in the World Cup in Qatar. We all saw how he was leading the aggressive side of the team of the Moroccans. He contributed to their success there, and he's one of the players who could do a real good job. Whether it's possible to bring him in, we don't know.
Yeah, and there's Mohamed Kudus as well from Ajax as a player that they're looking at too, and they're not the only club who are looking at Kudus. What can you tell us about him?
Well, Mohamed Kudus is a really interesting player as far as midfield striker-wise. He can play both, and I think this is why he's on the horizon. He's on that list. He may not be the number one yet, but if any of the players we've just mentioned fail to come, or if the talks break down, Kudus could be an ideal option. Now, quite significantly in this matter is that Kudus, who is in training camp with Ajax in the south of Germany near Munich, has made it clear to his club, I want to leave. Now, when does a player say he wants to leave? Usually when he's got something else lined up. And he's very keen on a move to the Premier League, whether that would be a top club in London or in Manchester. But I think as soon as Ten Hag would knock on his door, he would go.
And do you think that he is actually the type of player who would take to the Premier League easily and hit the ground running?
He's been the most entertaining, most aggressive forward Ajax had last year. They didn't have a great season, but he has been the only hope for the Ajax fans to rise the club again. We all know that since Ten Hag left, and they had a very fruitful time before, he's been absolutely brilliant for him. And I think this is why he would be absolutely a real good asset for him.
OK, well, we'll keep an eye on that one. What about a potential departure from Manchester United? Donny van der Beek's future, it seems to have been a doubt ever since, well, the second transfer window that he was here.
It's one of the biggest mysteries, really. Donny van der Beek was an entertaining player. He was a solid Ajax player. He was a Dutch international. He moved to England. And since then, everything, has gone down. It's not worked out for him. A major injury, which put him out for months and months. And now he's back. And I think he's missed out too much. And he realizes he needs to move on. But where does he move? He wants to move to a club of top level as well. And he's been spoiled by having Manchester United. And for every Manchester United player who's been put on a massive contract, we've seen that it's difficult to shift because they do want to hang on their wages. And I think with Donny van der Beek, he will need a big club who can also supply him that same sort of wage.
Let's get to Calvin Bassey, because it looks like he's going to join Fulham. We know him well from his time at Rangers, but he moved to Ajax last summer. How has he been doing since he's been there?
That's a really sad story, really, because Calvin Bassey has been the most fantastic professional they've had at Ajax. He's a hard-working guy. He's worked himself up via Leicester City to Rangers, and then made this brilliant move to Ajax, and he is made of steel. Now, what he lacks is the kind of comfort on the ball what most Ajax players have. Where Ajax players and Dutch players in general often lack a bit of steel, why they find it difficult to play the Premier League, he lacked the sort of comfort and maybe the skills to play in that Ajax style. And the new manager and the new technical director, Sven Mislintat, who was briefly in charge at Arsenal, we all know, has made it very clear in a not very pleasant way that he doesn't fit anymore at Ajax. And I feel sorry for the guy. He's worked so hard, but he is one of those players who's really suitable for English and Scottish football rather than the Dutch tiki-taki style. I hope it all works out for him at Fulham. He deserves it.
Yeah, I just remember how emotional he was when he heard that Champions League music as well. Seems like a great guy. Looks like he's coming to the Premier League. Marcel, great to see you. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Let's just quickly check in with day 2 at the Oval of the 5th Ashes Test. Remember, England need to win this to draw the series. They can't regain the Ashes after that washout at Old Trafford, but they can, of course, draw the series, so there's plenty to play for still in this one, but no wickets yet. Usman Khawaja is still there on 34 not out, alongside Marnus Labuschagne, who is 7 not out. Remember, yesterday David Warner went to Chris Wokes for 24, but no breakthrough as yet. It's currently Stuart Broad with ball in hand, bowling to Khawaja, but that is live on Sky Sports Cricket. Coming up, will Moise Caicedo remain a Brighton player come the end of the transfer window, or will he end up at Chelsea? The latest is next. Caicedo's future.
Is Brighton players. If you ask me what I would like, I can answer. I would like he keep with us, he stay with us, but it's not my work. My work is to tell my owner if Caicedo leaves, we need another big important midfielder. Yes.
Do you have someone in mind if he does go? Do you have someone that could come in and replace him potentially?
Yes, but I don't want to tell you.
No, of course. I wasn't asking who.
I follow the words of my owner, and my owner doesn't speak with me about Caicedo in the last hour. But you know, for the young player, it's difficult to live inside the possibility to change team, to change city, to change everything, no? But he's a serious guy, serious player, and he's working well in a good way. We are waiting for the new situation can change or not.
So Brighton don't want Caicedo to go, but De Zerbi's saying there that the players lined up should he go. And Quaker, are there similarities with this transfer deal to what there was with Enzo Fernandez in January?
I suppose the similarity is that it's protracted. Enzo deal was very different though. It was on, then it was off, then it was on, then it was off, and then eventually Chelsea got it done at the last minute. Whereas Chelsea are clearly in for Caicedo. They want this deal to happen. Brighton are just playing hardball. The leverage that Benfica had with Enzo Fernandez is he won the World Cup. So that was kind of justification for that fee, which was a record-breaking fee at the time. Caicedo's obviously had a great season at Brighton. That's just one Premier League season. I think that's what Chelsea are going to the negotiations saying, that it's just one season. Obviously, we know how valuable he's going to be for Chelsea, and Brighton know that as well. That's why it's taken so long. It's interesting hearing De Zerbi talk there. He's such a character, and he didn't want to let too much on. But I feel like the two parties are talking. Chelsea are going to consistently put in bids until the end of the window, and it's a matter of time, really, to wait and see situation. But I can see why people draw comparisons to the Enzo Fernandez situation.
I think Brighton have got a lot of weight in this conversation, because they know that as soon as Caicedo comes to Chelsea, or if he comes to Chelsea, he's going to be their most experienced midfielder. He's played the most minutes out of the midfielders that currently play for Chelsea. He's done incredibly well. We've talked about his qualities and what he can add to any team, and you think Chelsea have already said that they need midfielders with experience, with that age profile, and there's not that many midfielders in the world that can do what Caicedo does. So De Zerbi clearly doesn't want to lose him, but if Chelsea want him, they're going to have to stump up the cash.
Why is he so important to Brighton, Harriet?
Well, he's been a key player in a really good season for them last season, and they've already lost McAllister, and I think they'll be looking at that midfield now and saying, I don't want to lose him as well, especially the experience that he brings and all the attributes we just mentioned there. And in terms of some of his stats, you can see on the screen there, second in the Premier League for tackles and interceptions, third for possession won in the final third. You can really see what he's bringing. He performs so well under pressure. He's really good at distributing the ball. He's got so many good qualities, and a lot of teams are looking for a really good holding and number 6 midfielder as well, and he's got the ability to push forward from there. So I understand why they want to keep, and I understand they're also looking at the market and thinking, well, Declan Rice has just gone for a huge fee. We think that he's got the same amount of potential, if not more, than Declan Rice. He's a 21-year-old player who's already shown that he can perform at the highest level. So they'll be thinking, we're going to just hang on, wait till we get the valuation, wait till we get the fee and the offer that they think Chelsea will eventually cave into, because they have a track record of that. So I understand Brighton's perspective, and they will definitely want to keep the player, as we've just heard the manager mention.
I'm intrigued to see what Brighton do if they eventually do sell him, because, De Zerbi obviously holding his card close to his chest, but at the same time, if you get in a new player at this point, or even if it drags on a bit later, you can get that player in, but will he be able to, acclimatise to the Premier League as quick as Caicedo did? I don't even think Caicedo actually acclimatised as quickly as everyone expects. Last season he had his stand-up, but he actually came the January before, so whichever midfielder they get in has to have that immediate impact, and if he doesn't, then it could not turn out well for Brighton.
But Brighton do have a history of selling high and replacing well, Kwaku.
Yeah, well, Sam touched on it there. In terms of Brighton, they've got an interesting model. They they bring in replacements, but a year early they either send them out on loan or they embed them slowly. It's not just thrown straight into the 11. And if you look at these players that they've lost in recent times to top clubs, Ben White's gone to Arsenal, Bassey's obviously gone to Spurs, Cucurella to Chelsea, McAllister to Liverpool, Trossard to Arsenal, and they've replaced them adequately. And if you look at it, the Basuma replacement was Caicedo, who we've touched on already, and Stupinian was one of the best left-backs in the league last season, obviously replaced Cucurella. Billy Gilmour plays in a slightly different position to McAllister, but last season with McAllister, he started deep and then pushed further forward. Billy Gilmour can be that replacement. And then Leandro Trossard, who they let go in January, Matoma was already that ready-made signing. He went on loan last year to a team in Belgium, and then he came back and he's started for Brighton. They're very good at replacing players that they lose. If you're a Brighton fan, you worry that cycle could run out. It only takes one or two bad signings for that to kind of come a cropper. So Brighton, despite the fact that their top players seem to be linked with top clubs every single season, they do have a good knack of replacing those players.
Well, let's get some reaction to England's 1-0 win over Denmark. Thanks to Lauren James's goal. We can hear from the captain, Millie Bright.
Really proud of the girls' performances. Another win, another clean sheet, a lot of character and a lot of passion, and yeah, I'd take our 1-0 any day of the week.
And when you go and score a goal like that in the first 6 minutes, it sort of sets it up rather nicely. A lot of people have been calling for Lauren James to start. I mean, you know how well she plays. You see her day in, day out. That was quite a finish at a World Cup on her first start.
Yeah, she's unbelievable. I think everyone knows her talents. The girl does that every day in training, so I'm not surprised to see that in the back of the net. But brilliant player, but yeah, I think we have some real talented players that are capable of that, and I think we've maybe just been waiting for something to click a little bit, and tonight it did feel, especially the first half, a lot more fluid, a lot more momentum, but overall, under the circumstances, you know, like I said, the mentality is a massive thing in tournaments, and football's not easy. I think sometimes everyone expects pretty football, perfect score lines, but you know, that's not what tournament is, and we like that as players. It's exciting.
Just finally, how hard was it to sort of regather the team? You see one of your key teammates going down and clearly in some awful pain.
Yeah.
What sort of things were you saying at half-time? Because it's hard, isn't it, to focus when she's just one of your pals as well as one of your teammates.
Yeah, you don't want to see anyone go off like that. And I think in that first minute, you've got a million things going through your head, and most importantly, give the player time and space, and then it's instantly you have to snap out of it. We have to regroup, make changes, straight back into the game. We've still got a job to do, still got the rest of the first half and the second half, but half-time was just about the team. It has to be, and we have to just gather and, like I said, get the job done. So yeah, that's what I mean about mentality, like being able to overcome that, and you know, we're all behind Kira, whatever the circumstances are. I've not seen her yet, so I'm not aware of the situation, but you know, we'll all be behind her no matter what.
Victory for England's footballers, the Lionesses, and a breakthrough for England's cricketers. What a catch this was by Joe Root. Marnus Labuschagne's gone for 9. The bowler was Mark Wood. Brilliant left-handed catch in the slips from Root. And Australia now 91 for 2. Right, so much on the way on Transfer Talkers. West Ham look to several midfield options, but suffer a couple of setbacks. Plus, will Liverpool sign Romeo Lavia? Manchester United remain confident of signing Atalanta striker Rasmus Højlund, despite Paris Saint-Germain entering the race with a £43 million bid. Positive talks continue between the clubs over a compromise on the fee. United are willing to walk away and focus on other targets if they can't agree a deal. So, Harriet, will the Manchester United fans quite like that approach? We're willing to pay that. If you don't accept it, we'll move on.
I think they will quite like this approach. I think, crucially, they really trust Ten Hag and they trust the players that he's going after, and that he'll bring in someone that they really can rely on. And I think in previous years, maybe not taken this approach, and they are working under strict FFP restraints, and also as an ongoing situation with the ownership. So they've got a strict budget to work with this season. They won't be wanting to go after one player and the other team know that, and then they pay way above the odds that they wanted to and that they value this player at. So it's really good that they're kind of keeping their options open. They're assessing what's on the market. They're seeing what other players are available, and then not just putting all their eggs in one basket. And I think that will be a really positive thing for United fans, and working with the manager and him kind of leading the strategy on that will be no bad thing.
The thing with Højlund, Kwaku, is that, you know, he is a young player with great potential. Do you think that Manchester United fans would prefer a finished article right now?
Well, I can understand why Man United fans have a sceptical eye. He's a 20-year-old striker that's had one season in Serie A, played 32 games and scored 9 goals, which is a decent return for somebody that young in his first season in the top 5 European league. But Man United fans are used to having the best strikers in the world. And if you look at their history, like Andy Cole, Teddy Sheringham, Van Nistelrooy, Berbatov, Robin van Persie, these are world-class strikers in their prime to score goals for Manchester United straight off the jump. Højlund's more of a project, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on him if they bring him in as their main striker to score goals straight away. He might be able to live up to that pressure, but it's a lot, and we know how demanding the Old Trafford crowd can be. And if this Manchester United team's not ticking, and they're looking to a 20-year-old Danish striker to pull them out of the fire when things get hot, it's going to be quite difficult for Manchester United. So I understand why there is some scepticism when it comes to Højlund, but right now, Man United have got to go for these kind of targets because they haven't got the funds available to really go and target the top players in the world.
But the same applied to Mohamed Kudus then, who Marcel van der Kraan was really raving about, but he's about to turn 23.
Yeah, he's a player of upside. Obviously, he had some great showings at the World Cup for Ghana. He played well for Ajax in the Champions League especially. We saw some good showings against Liverpool and Rangers. And he's a player that is exciting. Marcel was explaining how excited he's been for Ajax in a season which has been difficult for the Dutch side. And so he fits the profile of players that Manchester United are targeting. And I go back to the comments that Ten Hag made during pre-season about how dynamic he wants the side to be, how aggressive he wants the side to be, and how good in transition he wants the side to be. Those boxes are ticked by players like Højlund and like players like Mohamed Kudus.
The striker market, though, is so difficult at the moment, isn't it? And I think when you talk about buying a player that's not necessarily ready-made and that they're going to have to rely on at times next season in big moments, there's actually not that many strikers out there. And a lot of top teams are really looking around in the number 9 market and seeing what they can get. And I think with this player, they'd be paying for a lot of potential. We know that he's got that pace. We know that he's got that physicality and he can really hold off a defender. But it is that smaller sample size that might worry some United fans. But I think in terms of the striker market, he is one of the better options available, and he would help Manchester United in becoming that more transitional team as they look ahead to that and build from there next season.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they desperately do need a striker. When you look at their options at the moment, they've got Martial, who obviously he's quite injury prone. Rashford doesn't clearly want to play down the middle. You know, the last window they got in Weghorst, who was good for Ten Hag in terms of pressing, but in terms of goal contributions, he didn't really live up to what he would have expected. And I think now, if you speak to any United fan, if they get a striker in like Højlund, they'll be able to think more positively about going into the season where other teams are really strengthening their weaker areas. And I think that that's been a weak area for United for a while now. And if Rashford is over-relied on again next season, I think they'll be worried.
Yeah, and Galatasaray, by the way, pushing to sign Manchester United midfielder Fred. Initial talks have highlighted a gap in valuation. If Fred or another midfielder were to leave, Manchester United could go back into the market in central midfield, and they've held talks with Fiorentina over Sofyan Amrabat. What are the current central midfield options for Ten Hag, Sam?
The thing is, they've actually got quite a few midfielders. They've got Casemiro, McTominay, Eriksen, Fernandes, Mount, Fred, Donny van der Beek, and Kobbie Mainoo, who's a player that Ten Hag has spoke highly of, and I think he's going to try add him to their first team next season. But when you talk about a lot of those midfielders, they do sound like attacking midfielders. I think Amrabat, for example, would be a different profile to that. We've obviously heard McTominay linked with West Ham, Fred now linked with Galatasaray. So I think that CDM or box-to-box midfielder is an area that they need to improve on if they want to, be as strong as they can be.
By the breaking news, you see it there on the bottom of your screen. Al-Ahli have signed Riyad Mahrez. Now, remember, we've been saying that this is going to happen for quite some time. It is now official, a bit like when Jordan Henderson went out there as well. It took a while for it to actually be confirmed, even though we knew for quite some time it was going to happen. Manchester City have said all the best for the future, Riyad. He's ended his 5-year stay at City to join Al-Ahli out in Saudi Arabia. And I've got the statement here from Manchester City, from Manchester City right now. There's no quotes in this just yet, so we'll wait for them. In fact, we do. We've got some now from Mahrez. He said, to play for Manchester City has been an honour and a privilege. He's going to be 33 in February, 32 years old at the moment. I came to City to win trophies and enjoy my football. I've achieved all of that and so much more. I've had 5 unforgettable years with this football club, working with unbelievable players, fantastic supporters. I'm the best manager in the world. That's in Pep Guardiola. I've made lifetime wonderful memories and the manner of our Premier League title wins and battles we've had with Liverpool. And last year, Arsenal underlined our collective desire and mentality to be the best. Manchester City will forever be a huge and happy part of my life. So, Harriet, Riyad Mahrez, at that age from Manchester City, all that success, does this seem like the right time for Manchester City to actually get some money for him and say, 5 years, you've been brilliant, you can go?
It's interesting that you talk about the 5 years and you can look at some of his stats. They're scoring 78 goals across 236 games. He's been such a crucial player, but at times you might even say a little bit underrated because he's not always been the star. He's not always been the one to score in the massive games, but he's always been a really crucial player. However, there does seem to be a real period of transition now for Manchester City. They're letting go of a few really big names in that team, a few leaders, and some will wonder heading into next season how that will pan out. I know Pep Guardiola always comes up with a solution regardless of whether he loses 10 of his best players or just one. But this will be maybe a little bit of a concern. But I think on the Mahrez point, it feels like a good time for him to go. And Saudi Arabia coming in, I'm sure it makes sense for him from a personal perspective. So no City fans will begrudge that. But will they want to replace him? Will they want to look at more squad options to really retain that depth? Because that is what keeps Manchester City at the top and winning trophies. They've got that squad depth. They can rely on absolutely anyone on that bench. And he's been a really crucial player for them in that perspective.
And Quaker, it's quite important. We don't know yet what the fee is, which we'll of course find out. But at that age, getting a fee for a player, it's a bit of a bonus, isn't it? To get, just being told, £30 million for someone who Manchester City are the ones who've pointed out he's 33 on his next birthday. To have all that success at the club and still get £30 million at the age of 32, you've got to say, good business from Manchester City.
100%, and this is the Saudi effect in full effect, because you couldn't have imagined or foreseen before this summer ever getting 30 million plus for a player who's 30 plus. And it just shows how good Man City are at shifting players as well. They very rarely keep players who tell them they want to leave. I think the only example I can remember maybe is Bernardo Silva, but if a player tells Man City or tells Pep Guardiola they want to go, they normally find a way to get the deal done. And you just got to give credit to Riyad Mahrez in terms of his career path, from Ligue 2 to playing in the Championship for Leicester, to being the best player in the country when Leicester won the league in 2016, and then making that move to Man City and winning every single trophy there is to win. There's not much more that can be said about Riyad Mahrez. He deserves whatever comes his way, and it makes sense for him to leave Man City at this point. As Harriet pointed, they're going in a different direction, and I think the writing was on the wall. When you score a hat-trick in the FA Cup semi-final and then you don't start the final, your time's probably done at a football club. And congratulations to Riyad Mahrez because he's had an incredible career.
Yeah, Manchester City do have several youngsters who can step up, and I'm sure that's what they will be hoping will happen. Right, England are on the verge of the last 16 qualification in the Women's World Cup after a 1-0 win over Denmark, though they lost key midfielder Kira Walsh to a worrying injury. Here's the manager, Sarina Wiegman.
Of course I'm concerned because she couldn't walk off the pitch, but we don't know yet. So we can't take any assumptions. Let's just wait till we really have a diagnosis, and then we can tell you. About the style of play, yeah. Well, you saw what we did. We brought Stanway a little back and brought Laura Coombs in. Yeah, of course, we had to find our feet a little bit. We saw different stages in the game. We really dominated the first half. Then Kira went out, and we had to adapt to the new situation. I think the second half, they had also such a direct style of play that it became more a fight game. And we also showed that we can fight. So I think the team showed really resilience, and we kept the 1-0. So that's really good, and I'm very proud of the team.
Mind of the breaking news, Riyad Mahrez has left Manchester City, has joined Al-Ahli. Next, our focus turns to newly promoted teams in the Premier League. We'll assess the business done by Luton, Burnley and Sheffield United, and there's a new update on Harry Kane. Welcome back. Now, if you're just joining us, Riyad Mahrez has left Manchester City. He's joined Al-Ahli in Saudi Arabia for £30 million. But we've got an update to bring you, which has come from Sky Germany on the future of Harry Kane. Now, their reporter, the excellent Florian Plettenberg, is saying that Bayern bosses are not coming to London today, as previously reported. He's been told that concrete negotiations about Kane remain ongoing. Bayern bosses, they're in regular contact with Daniel Levy at this stage. Now, a meeting is planned and it could take place in the next few days. We're told nothing has collapsed, but the meeting is no longer today. Nothing's changed. Bayern are still working on signing Harry Kane. Now, let's talk about some of the newly promoted clubs to the Premier League, who we've not talked about too much so far since this window began. There's Burnley, the Sheffield United and Luton, who went up via the playoffs. So let's get an update on all of them. Sam, you're going to start with Burnley.
Yeah, Vincent Kompany has been very active on this transfer market. He's added quite a few players. The most noticeable ones is James Trafford from Manchester City. They got him for £19 million, and a lot of people are saying that this is a big fee for such a young keeper, but we've seen how well he done for the under-21s at the Euros. Didn't concede a goal. He saved that last-minute penalty with that much pressure on his shoulders. They recently signed Nathan Redmond. They also had an amazing release video for him. I don't know if any of you seen it, but it was hilarious. He's obviously got a lot of Premier League experience that he will add to their front line. They added another striker, Amdouni, a young striker from Basel, who scored 22 goals in all competitions last season. They've added to their defence centre-backs Jordan Bayer and Dara O'Shea. And I think Kompany's been quite active in terms of, trying to add a lot of depth in each position. I put a tweet out to speak to some of the Burnley fans, and they were saying that the only positions that they're really worried about is right back, left back and centre mid. So, yeah, as you can see on the screen there, he's been very active and not paid quite a lot, in terms of he's got a few for free, some undisclosed fees as well. So I think they had a bid rejected for Jack Clark recently. They might go back in for him again. So yeah,
better not.
they're one to look out for.
Yeah. Okay. So Burnley quite busy so far, as most promoted clubs need to be. There's the second page of that, by the way. There's another player that they've brought in. That takes us to the other team that was automatically promoted, I should say, and that is Sheffield United, Kwaku.
They've not been as busy as Burnley. They have made some moves, brought in a few players on fairly cheap deals. They brought in Anis Ben Slimani from Brøndby's 22-year-old centre midfielder. Yassir Larouchi from Troyes in France, again, 22 years old. He's a left-back but can also play left wing. And they've also brought in Benny Traore, whose visa has not been approved yet. He's a 20-year-old winger from BK Häcken who play in Sweden. And the line is from Sheffield United is that business is not done. Tim Thornton was actually out in Lisbon. He talked to Paul Heckenbottom, who said the business is not concluded yet, which I'm sure Blades fans will love to hear. And it's difficult for Sheffield United. They haven't got infinite funds. They haven't even got as much money as Burnley to spend. So they're looking for players that have got potential and that can develop into established Premier League players. In terms of what they're looking to bring in still, they're looking to bring in a centre-back and centre midfielder, just bolster that squad. They're fairly happy with what they got. Ideally, they want to bring in 3 players, but 2 definitely as centre-back and centre midfield. And one to look out for, though, in terms of players they're looking to retain is their striker, their top goal scorer from last season, Iliman Ndiaye, who scored 14 league goals for him. He hasn't signed a new deal yet. He's coming into the final year of his contract. Obviously, Sheffield United will be looking to get that deal done ASAP as they bid to look to stay in the Premier League for next season, because we know they are one of the favourites to go down. But if they can do the right business and bring in the right players, then there's no reason why they can't stay up.
That brings us to Luton, Harriet.
Yeah, and what a great story that Luton are back in the Premier League. I know a lot of away fans are looking forward to going in that entrance for their stand this season. But they've been a little bit quiet in the transfer window. And one of the messages from the club is that they really want to spend the money that they've got from the Premier League into really creating a legacy, investing it into a training ground, investing it into a stadium. But you can see here the players that they have brought in, they've actually broken their transfer record twice already, bringing in Anderson for £3 million and then Chong for £4 million. They're really looking to strengthen across the pitch. But the areas now moving forward that are key for them are bringing in a goalkeeper and adding that to their ranks. They really would like to bring in an attacking midfielder and then also a striker. So those three areas now are the ones to look out for moving forward. But they also want to give the players a chance that have come up and brought them back into the Premier League to prove themselves. And that's why I think you've seen a few new contracts of key players being handed out at Luton, because they want to show that they trust these players, that they think they can perform in the Premier League and that they can retain their Premier League position with the players they've got. But we'll be interesting to see what else they do this window. But like I said, a lot of that funding is going towards really building a legacy and making sure that Luton have a season or more in the Premier League to remember.
Yeah, and making Nakamba's loan move permanent is important for them as well, because he was very good in the Championship last season. Now to West Ham, and they've seen a £20 million bid rejected by Southampton for their captain James Ward-Prowse. It was £17 million plus £3 million in performance-related add-ons. West Ham expected to go back with an improved bid. They may go back in for a bid for Conor Gallagher as well, because they had £40 million rejected for him, and they remain interested in Scott McTominay and Dennis Zakaria. So 4 central midfielders there. Harriet, why does David Moyes want to strengthen that area?
Well, the obvious answer is that they've let go of Declan Rice, who started 36 of their Premier League games last season, came on as a substitute for one. And they've also let Manuel Lanzini go. And I think now, if you look at that area, they've not just lost the appearances and the leadership that Declan Rice has on the pitch, but also in the dressing room. And it's a difficult role to come in and fill. And I think that's why you see them looking at really different options across the midfield, some in a more holding position, some in a more attacking position. And traditionally, clubs that have let a player go for this amount of money do like to reinvest it in kind of 4 or 5 players. So I think that's why they're looking at so many different options. The only problem for them now is not many of them do seem to be sticking, do they? They seem to be going after a lot of players and then it goes a little bit quiet. So it will be interesting to see how that goes in the next couple of weeks. But midfield is the area, with the loss of Declan Rice, that they need to get reinforcements in, particularly if they don't want to be battling at the bottom of the table next season.
And Sam, that's the thing. How important is it that they do spend that Declan Rice money wisely?
I think it's really important. Like Harriet said, you know, replacing a figure not just on the pitch but off the pitch like Declan Rice is going to be a tough ask. You know, this is now their second season when they're losing a captain. Obviously, Mark Noble was because he was retiring, and Declan Rice, he moved to Arsenal. But I think at the same time, when you look at the profile of player he is, he does everything. He does everything for them and England as well. And I think there's not that many players in the Premier League or in world football that can do that role as good as Declan Rice. So it's not a surprise that they're looking and linked with so many midfielders, some that are good defensively, some that are good box-to-box, some that are good attacking as well. So I think they're going to need to get a few of these signings in at the same time, but also understand that because everyone saw the saga with Arsenal and how much the fee is, that's going to be quite difficult, you know, to try and get the fee that they're thinking of in their mind.
But will the fans be worried, Quaker, that they haven't actually got any of them over the line yet?
Of course, there's always worry when your team spends late or they don't spend at all. But West Ham fans, it's almost careful what you wish for, because I remember hearing the same chat before last summer's window, and West Ham went and spent £179 million, and they finished 14th in the Premier League. So it's not always about spending; it's about spending correctly and investing in the right areas, and also retention. West Ham fans are obviously going to be a little bit nervous because they lost Declan Rice, and in consecutive summer transfer windows, they've lost Mark Noble, who retired, and they lost Declan Rice, who they sold for £100+ million. And so West Ham fans are right to be a bit cautious in terms of heading into the new season, which is only 2 weeks away. But careful what you wish for. You've got the right manager in charge who had led you to successful seasons over the last 3 years. And you want to make sure you bring in the right signings, because West Ham have had a history of bringing in the wrong signings, and it's gone really wrong for them.
They're in the Europa League as well, and I think that's another thing they need to be cautious of, is not just bringing in someone that can replace Declan Rice in the starting 11, but where is the squad depth when he's not available, the new player that they bring in, or anyone else in their midfield? Who are they looking to after that, and really relying on that squad depth when they're trying to balance the 2 different competitions? And
yeah, this might be a chance to do that. Right, we've got time for Liverpool now. Jordan Henderson's left the club. He's joined up with his former teammate Steven Gerrard in Saudi Arabia. Harriet, how do Liverpool replace him?
Yeah, probably easier said than done, isn't it? He probably spoke to the manager and thought that his game time next season would be limited with the introduction of McAllister. So I think that's probably contributed to the fact that he has left. But a lot of players that Liverpool have been linked with now, in particular Lavia, aren't actually going to replace him in a footballing sense, because Henderson plays as more of a number 8 role. Lavia is more of a defensive midfielder. Do I think that Liverpool need a like-for-like replacement for Jordan Henderson in a footballing sense? No. But from a leadership sense, it really leaves a huge void. And Liverpool have kind of gone from having a midfield that everyone was talking about being far too old, and now it looks like it's going to be far too young. So maybe a Lavia plus a midfielder that can help to balance out that age profile will be key for them, but it's going to be really difficult to replace all the leadership qualities for a captain that was there for 7 years, captain for 7 years and at Liverpool for 12 years.
And why Romeo Lavia, Kweku?
Simply put, he's quality, and he's a player that we can all see the qualities. There's the reason why he was at Man City at the age he was. There's the reason why Chelsea, after playing against Southampton in, I think it was August, tried to put in a bid for Romeo Lavia, who'd only just joined Southampton. He is such a good player with such incredible upside, only 19 years old. The problem is, I don't think that he fills the void or he kind of ticks the box that Liverpool are looking for. He's, in my opinion, more of a box-to-box midfielder at this point in his career. He can sit deep. He did do that for Southampton. But if he's going to come in, it looks like it's going to be a Fabinho replacement. And I don't know if he's quite ready to do that job yet for a team as good as or as ambitious as Liverpool.
And Harry, very quickly, in terms of Liverpool's transfer business of the last few windows, how would you rate it?
Yeah, OK. I think the forward line, a lot of Liverpool fans will say they're the happiest with. They brought in Núñez, Diaz, Gakpo. They've really gone with the times and transition well there. Defence, a few more question marks over. Konate they brought in, that was a good signing. But it's really that midfield area now that Liverpool fans will look at and say they've not done enough work over the last few years. Thiago is the last permanent signing in midfield, so really needing to strengthen that. And they've done some of that this season, but still more to do.
That appears to be the focus. Harriet, Sam, Quaker, thank you very much indeed. Good Morning Transfers returns on Monday at 9 a.m. and that will be followed by Transfer Talk at midday until 1 o'clock. But there's plenty more today because you've got at 5 o'clock the Transfer Show and it's on again at 7 p.m. Australia 109 for 2 at the Oval as the sun comes out. Usman Khawaja 43 for 1. On the way next, more on the Lionesses' second victory of the World Cup.